Ryan Koenigsberg, who covers the Colorado program. He's kind enough to join us right now. Ryan, I know it's been a while since we saw you at the Super Bowl. How you been, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. How about the timing on this interview today that we had planned earlier in the week and just happens to work out perfectly with the Coach Prime extension?
Yeah, sometimes some dumb luck that you just get in this business, as you know, obviously with your Colorado following. So you're plugged in on the day-to-day of the Colorado football program when this news came out today, and it's finally over with 5 years, $54 million contract extension for Coach Prime. What's the take? What's the reaction?
I think the reaction is a big sigh of relief for a lot of Colorado fans who I think for the most part have believed Coach Prime when he said, I love it here. I want to stay here. I don't have interest in going to the NFL. But there, for so many outside sources constantly to be kind of pushing this narrative of Coach Prime to go here, Coach Prime to go there. Why would he stay at Colorado when he could do this or that or the other thing? It's a huge sigh of relief and a great feeling of validation for the people who believed Coach Prime when he said those things and really thought that there was almost a budding love between Coach Prime and the Boulder community and the CU football community. And it's really awesome to see those people kind of rewarded for believing that could actually happen.
I've always been an advocate of Coach Prime. When he was at Jackson State, no offense down to Colorado, I was saying Auburn should hire him, and we know what he's gone on to do the last 2 seasons in Boulder. But now it's different because Shedeur's no longer there. Travis Hunter's no longer there. We all know the kids that Coach Prime could bring in, and he's always going to be in the spotlight. But for you, what do you think fulfillment is for Coach Prime at Colorado now with Shedeur and Travis no longer being there?
It's a great question, and I think it leads really well into a point that I was going to make about the timing of this. To me, it's no coincidence at all that the timing of this comes right about the middle of spring practice for Colorado. And it's my understanding that over the last couple of weeks, shortly after spring practice began, is when this kind of started to really heat up. It had been bubbling for a while for this to happen, but it really got pushed across the finish line in the last week or so. And to me, that's notable because I think that Coach Prime never knew exactly how he was going to feel when he went out on that field to coach and his sons weren't there. And I think that he's incredibly fulfilled by coaching, but I do wonder if there was a part of him that said, I just want to make sure, I want to see how I feel when I get out there. And I think that he went out there and really was just thinking about coaching for the first time since he's been doing this and ended up loving it. He doesn't have to be dad, coach, bouncing back and forth now. He just gets to be coach to all of these kids. And, he said it from the beginning, like what he is fulfilled by is helping these young kids become men. And I honestly and truly believe him when he says that. And, talking to players that have been there and the experiences of, parents and things of that nature that have been involved with the program, like, that's really what makes him tick, is trying to help these kids have some of the advice that maybe he wishes he had when he was that age. And he really pours into them when they get on this campus. And I almost wonder if that gives him even more motivation that his sons aren't there to have kind of, more young people that he can help mold.
Ryan Koenigsberg here with us. When we take a look at Julian Lewis, right, he's the next guy up for Colorado. And the future of this program, we were talking about it, like what success for Colorado this year. That's like 7 or 8 teams that you look at in the Big 12 and you could say, okay, they could go win the conference. So I expect them to be bowl eligible. I expect them to be competing for a conference championship this year. But you knowing the roster in and out, what do you kind of feel is your vibe going into the season for the Buffaloes?
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun storyline to follow because, in my opinion, the roster as a whole, the median of the roster is a lot better. It's the best it's been since Coach Prime got to Colorado. The difference is you obviously don't have 2 superstars in Shedeur and Travis, who we're going to get to in a minute. And so I'm kind of seeing this as a year where Colorado is playing a much more balanced brand of football. They're a lot stronger in the trenches. They're certainly going to run the ball a lot more. In addition to Julian Lewis, they have Caden Salter, who transferred in from Liberty, who's like a true dual threat quarterback. And And I think that this team definitely has a chance to compete in the Big 12. I think it's going to come down to, how quickly can the offense mesh, and whatever quarterback ends up taking the job, how quickly do they really get rolling as an offense. Defensively, I think they're going to be incredibly strong. So they have that to lean on a little bit, maybe early in the season. But I do expect them to be in that mix of teams up at the top of the Big 12 at the end of the year.
So before we get to Travis and Shedeur, Ryan Koenigsberg here with us, I see the details of the contract comes out. And if Coach Prime wanted to leave, it starts for this year, a $12 million buyout. I said it to open the show. I think for the immediate future, year, 2, 3 years, in that range, that I really do feel like if Coach Prime is coaching in college, it's going to be at Colorado. But with that buyout number not being incredibly high and the NFL just being the NFL, do you think that conversation goes away? If, let's just say, Shedeur is drafted by the Giants and then a year from now the Giants fire Daboll, like those conversations are naturally still going to pop up with the possibility of Coach Prime leaving to go to the NFL, right?
I think on a national standpoint, yes. I think that those conversations are always going to happen. I don't care if the buyout was $50 million. I think the conversations are still going to happen, mostly because it's just good content. To me, I really believe Coach Prime when he says, and he said it a lot, like he doesn't have an interest in coaching NFL players. He's been there. He understands kind of the difference in the way that guys approach the game. There's a lot of guys, as he would say, that are just collecting checks and aren't there, necessarily for the love of it. And according to him, that's not something that he would be able to handle as a head coach, a guy making, $15 million a year who isn't really about it. So I don't think the conversations are ever going away, but I really don't think that that's something that he's interested in. I think even, the other college football jobs, those are also going to come up, but he feels really comfortable and really happy in Boulder. And for a guy who's not chasing checks or whatever, that goes a long way.
Do you think he's the face of college football right now?
Yes, I do. And the reason I say that is because he's everywhere you look. Obviously there's coaches that have had more success at the college level, but they're not talking about him first segment on ESPN during the season almost every single Monday morning. To me, when it comes to the flash and the excitement and the hype and the quotes and all of that put together, he's like the perfect face of college football. And all of the networks know that and love that and are leaning into it, which I think results in him being that.
Hey, he's awesome for college football. There's no other way around it. And I love what he's been able to do with that Colorado program really the last 2 years. And last year was a very impressive coaching job. All righty, Ryan Koenigsberg. So we're originally going to bring you on, do a little prospect profiles. My brain is just totally lost. It's scrambled. It's in a blender trying to predict where Shedeur Sanders is going to go. I think that the Cleveland Browns should take him at 2. I do believe Cam Ward's going to go 1. I think that the Browns should do that. I don't know if they will. And then if the Browns don't, I absolutely believe that the Giants should, but I don't know if they will. What does your gut tell you right now with all the speculation and all the mock drafts and, one day this team's interested and this team's not interested on where you think Shedeur is going to get drafted by?
Yeah, I think my gut right now does point towards Cleveland. For them to have been in the kind of quarterback hell that they've been for so long, to not take a swing there, to me, wouldn't make a lot of sense. Now, I also think that the Titans should be strongly considering taking Shedeur over Cam Ward. And the reason I say that, and the reason I think there might be one last twist in this draft season where maybe that gets some steam, is because of the stylistic comparison to Joe Burrow. Obviously, Joe Burrow has accomplished a lot already. He won a national championship, one of the best seasons in college football history. I'm not saying Shedeur is on that level, but from a style of play, with someone who leans on their ball placement, someone who's athletic but doesn't fall back on their athleticism, someone who really likes to play from the pocket and diagnose a defense, that's what got Brian Callahan the job in Tennessee, is working with Joe Burrow. And so when I look at the stylistic comparison between those two, and I'm thinking about, I'm Brian Callahan, I'm trying to find the guy who wants to run it that way, it makes a lot of sense for me for them to go in that direction. Now, in draft season, it's easy to fall in love with a lot of the things that Cam Ward has, bigger size, certainly a stronger arm. So that being said, I think it ends up being the Browns at 2, but either one of those teams could end up picking Travis Hunter and kind of throwing a wrench in all of this. And, the Titans GM did say at one point, if there's a generational player we believe out there, we're not going to pass on him. In my opinion, there's one in this draft, and that is Travis Hunter. So, I'm kind of like you, just we need a domino to fall so we can start making sense of all this.
Yeah, no, I've taken about probably 45 Advil probably through this whole process because it could just give you a big headache. Wrap it up with Ryan Koenigsberg. You know what really annoys me though, and I'm glad we have you on because I know you're going to agree with me on this. The people that try to just tear down Shedeur, like the one report that came out that he was brash and arrogant in his interview process. Even so what? Like, I want my quarterback to have confidence. I want my quarterback to be an alpha. Just some of the things that are said about Shedeur, and I've watched him. I see the way that he's interacted with the media. I've seen what he's done now at different stops. I'm not sitting here telling you that this guy's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's going to be a great quarterback. But this idea that you wouldn't draft him because he's brash and arrogant, like, what are we doing here? It's some of the dumbest stuff I've ever heard.
I couldn't agree more. And I mean, think about the way that we talk about all of the greats after their careers, and it's MJ and Kobe and even Peyton Manning, there's stories out there of the brashness in practice or, expecting so much of their teammates and being so annoyed when they're not getting it. Like those things come out about so many great athletes. Shedeur certainly carries himself with a ton of confidence, but like you said, who wouldn't want that from their starting quarterback? You're investing your franchise in this guy. You absolutely want them carrying themselves with a ton of confidence. The brashness, the arrogance, it goes against all of the interactions that I've had with him since he got in Colorado. To me, he's learned so much from his dad about how to play the game. And I mean that multifaceted. How to play the game of football, also how to play the game that exists around football, to be a quarterback one, to be at a future face of the franchise. I have such a hard time imagining him going into an interview and not acting the way that he's acted with me when I have a conversation with him, which is incredibly cordial, kind, very generous with his time. So to me, that's a whole lot of BS. And like you said, if you don't want your quarterback to be confident or even arrogant, I don't know,
such a stupid
I got Daniel Jones looking for you,
Poor Daniel Jones. Travis Hunter, how do you think he's going to get used, on the next level in the NFL?
I go so back and forth on this. I personally am on the side that he can pull off whatever a team is willing to let him do. It just comes back to what is a team going to be willing to let him do? Are you as a team willing to say, okay, well, we're going to have a wide receiver one and a cornerback one with one pick, but we are going to understand that the longevity might not be as good, or we're taking a risk of an injury taking out both those guys. I love that Travis ended up with Coach Prime because I think he's one of the few people that would have ever let him do it.
Sure.
I worry about the NFL's openness to taking that risk. With that being said, you're not drafting him top 3 to not at least give him a chance to be him. So I think that what happens is he starts on offense and wide receiver is his main job, because I think that he has incredible upside there, and you can't dictate, if you're the other team, how often he can impact the game. That's my thing with the corner position is, if you want, you can just look away from Travis all game. And is that valuable? Yes. But when you have a touchdown scorer, a guy who put up 15 touchdowns last year on your football team, how are the fans going to react when you put up 13 points in a game and you have, the best receiver in the draft sitting on the sidelines because you moved him to defense? So I think he does start on offense because you can dictate how involved he is. But I think a smart team will find ways to also include him on defense. And maybe it is almost like a pass rush specialist edge rusher, but a passing downs corner that you're bringing in situations when you know it's likely that they're going to have to pass the ball and giving him a chance to go make plays on the ball.
It's what makes it a fun topic because I can't disagree with what you just said. And then I sit here and I go, oh, I think he'll be predominantly a corner, and then they'll do like 15 plays a game for him on the offensive side of the ball. But you believe he's a better wide receiver than corner if you only had to pick one?
It's so hard to pick.
Yeah.
I just think that he has a larger impact at wide receiver than he has at corner. And, you know, the way that he's able to go get the ball and then what he's able to do when he has it in his hands is just, I would hate to see that be wasted or not used to its full capability in the NFL.
He is Ryan Koenigsberg. Does a great job covering Colorado, and also see him talking Denver Broncos too for All City Network. We appreciate the time as always, Ryan. Thanks for the insight.
Of course. Thanks, guys.